Hey, welcome to the Junk Project. I'm your host. I almost forgot what I was, Michelle Hill. And today we have the awesome opportunity to be talking with Jamie. Jamie Hyde, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted you to share with our audience what you do and how you help people.
I appreciate that. So I do one-on-one consulting, specifically around business owners, entrepreneurs, and their mindset and their organic marketing efforts, and how those two marry to each other.
That's pretty cool. I always need help with that, especially anything married. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, honey. He doesn't listen anyway, so we're good.
I showed my wife your video on Size Matters this morning. We were both.
Yeah, I showed that to my husband. He's like, yeah, he's just not that kind of person. So I'm like, I thought it was pretty clever. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So how do people find you, and how do you help them in their business? Like, what kind of stuff do you do? Do you help them with time management, things like that?
Yeah. So first of all, to find me, as you know, I'm a wallflower and I'm real quiet on social media. Not. I'm everywhere, right? I think my Facebook address is the real Jamie Hyde, Jamie. There's like 16 ways to spell Jamie. Our apex brother Andy Garrison nicknamed me Mr.Clarity. So we've been building that brand out a little bit. So we've just purchased and setting up meetmrclarity.com, which will drive everybody to my electronic business card that we're in the middle of revamping. It takes time. We have these ideas, but we're caught up in the day-to-day. So like probably 3 months ago, we bought mrclarity.com, and we're just now getting the business card revamped for that. So
Yeah.
that's the easy way to find me. My profile is completely open to the public. And the reason I had to go with the real Jamie Hyde is I typed in Jamie Hyde into Facebook, and there was like 50 Jamie Hydes out there, and some of them were younger and prettier than me. So I had to distinguish, Jamie being a boy or a girl's name, of course.
Yeah.
So I had to distinguish myself a little bit there. So how we help people is that's the main question, right?
Yeah.
So my clients are typically male, although I did just bring on my third female client ever.
Sweet.
Weeks ago. Jokingly, don't want to offend nobody, I have enough issues dealing with my wife's emotions, not all of the world's women's emotionals. And no offense, hope I didn't offend nobody, but you know what, men, we're a little slow around those issues sometimes.
Yeah.
Not so quick to pick up on that stuff. So my clients tend to be about 30 to 45. I've had a couple that were 61 and a couple that were 27, but typically about 30 to 45. Childhood trauma, which is everybody. Typically not a great relationship with dad, usually some type of past with addiction type issues, whether it's alcoholism, drugs, food, sex, pornography, whatever. All right. And made some money, want more, whatever that looks like, their next level is for them, right?
Yeah.
And lately, I've even honed it a little deeper to, I say, Christian, claimed Christianity, or at least open to that relationship, or spiritual type person. Absolutely no offense to our atheist brothers and sisters out there. But for me, for my energy, it's just the type of person that I connect with the best.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I would never work with somebody that was an atheist, but if you get offended if I say, well, in the Bible it says this, then you're probably not my client.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
open to having those discussions, cool, but
yeah.
Because that's what's been important to me in my life, and that's what's helped me pass my own issues, was church, mentorship groups, coaching, psychotherapy, all of that stuff. So and I just had this little thought, and the last Zoom I was just on, I was telling him about this. So my clients are primarily two different categories, but it all loops back to the same issue. Either startup or they are making a little money, but they're not quite sure how to make bigger money. That's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Or they're doing really well. They're doing 2 million, 3 million, but they want to go to 5 or 10 million.
Yeah.
And what the guy that's the startup is struggling with is my processes, my systems, who's ever going to buy from me, what we call, as you know, imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
right? How do I get this down? How do I overcome objections better? How do I manage my time better? Who's my ideal perfect client? What are my core values? What's my mission statement? Like all of that, right?
Yeah.
Funny enough, bigger companies a lot of times deal with that. They don't have core values, they don't have mission statement, they don't even know their ideal perfect client. And the owners struggle with time management, but their issue tends to be not who's going to buy from me because they're already doing 2-3 million a year. They already know who's buying from them, right? But it
Yeah.
becomes like, who's going to work for me? Who's going to respect me enough as a boss? How do I lead people? Who am I to
Yeah.
a boss? Or so it's the same issue, it's a different issue, but it's kind of all still linked to the same problem, which is what I say is unresolved childhood trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wrote about this, I posted about this morning in one of the groups you and I are both in, but
Yeah.
here's the thing. You have a son, right?
Yes.
He's grown now.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll ask you, and I know this is a completely ridiculous rhetorical question. I know that up front, but this will paint the picture for your audience, right?
Okay.
When your son was 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 years old, was he independently financially successful?
No, I was completely disappointed in him as well, and I told him that. No, I'm just kidding. He was not, obviously.
And you didn't shame him?
No, I did not shame him, but I
Okay.
do like to mess with him, and he knows it.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, that never came up at that age. So yeah, there was no shaming because you don't expect that at that age.
Okay. So we don't shame our children,
Right.
but yet we all have stuck 3, 4, 5, 7, 8-year-olds in us that we
Yeah.
shame all the time because we're
Yeah.
not where we should be. So I was working with somebody last week who, I don't know, she's a coach or something. She's building a training academy. Honestly, I talked to so many people, I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
But I remember the specifics, right? It was building a training academy, and it was a stuck 8-year-old we were talking to. It's just an
Yeah.
identity. Right. So she was 44 years old or something. So a 44-year-old might just know how to do a training academy, but an 8-year-old doesn't.
Yeah.
But we don't see that as an 8-year-old. We see it as our 44-year-old or 50-year-old self or 30-year-old or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we're like, well, I'm dumb. I'm stupid. I can't figure this out. We beat ourselves up.
Yeah.
But go back and fix that 8-year-old, no problem. You could just do the
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
So that's really my specialty. And then the mindset marketing is the organic. The organic's really just bonus. That's the foundational for any business. But my little secret is organic marketing really just means build more relationships.
Yeah. And it's funny because I do a lot of local networking, and people will just come up and give me a card, and I'm like, I don't know you. I don't want your card. I want to talk to you first, and then we'll, go from there. But yeah, I guess you can give me your card so I can contact you to do a 1-to-1 maybe. But it just funny how some people will literally just go out hand out business cards, and I'm like, I don't even know who you are. I don't really want to do business with you. So I like, I'm very particular about how I do who I do business with as well. I have wrote down my core values, and so I am starting to use my core values not only for my business and the type of people that I want working with me, but the type of customers that I want to work with, the type of people I want to network with, family members. No, I'm just kidding. I can't like kick them out. So, but in general, everything is revolved around those core values, business and personal. And it's just a better group of people. It's not problem people, drama people. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I just don't need it, don't want to be around it. I have solutions to problems. Not everybody wants to fix their problems, and therefore I don't need to be around the people who don't want to fix them. So I like these core values is because I use that as a template.
Yeah, I did a lot of networking back in 2014, 2015, and at the time I had an auto broker business, and I remember this one event. I did a lot, and I was pretty well known on the networking circuit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at this brewery, and this just lady just accosted me the second I walked in the door, and she walks right up and hands me her business card and says, "I'm so and so. What do you do?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I'm doing right now is trying to get a beer. I just left her standing there, and I walked off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like literally, I just come in the door, and I'm like, "How about we start with it?" That's like my number one pet peeve is, "What do you
Yeah.
do?" It's because
Yeah.
people don't know us to say, right? How
Yeah.
about we start off with, "My name is so and so. How are you today? How's your day going?
Yeah. I struggle with that one.
Have you lived in this area long? Do you have kids? What are you? Tell me a little bit about you. How
Yeah.
about we kiss before we go to business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about, how about we just get to know each other,
Yeah.
and that just gets so. And then this woman like basically accosted me into meeting her for coffee in a one-on-one meeting, and it was horrific. And the whole time I was just like, at the time I was in a different mentorship group with a
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, I went to their group. They're a straight up cult and this and that." This lady just did everything she could to offend me in every way she could offend me. And then she was a financial planner. And she's like, "I want you to send me your car buying clients." And I'm like, "Lady, I hope I
Uh-uh.
never talk to you again."
Yeah.
Right. Just like, you're nuts. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with
Yeah.
you.
I don't even want to send people I hate to you because you're nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know why people get, but now that I've got the experience, so this is 7 years later, right? So
Yeah.
now, or 8 years later, now I got the experience. Now I understand the mindset stuff. I could pinpoint this woman to, I'll bet she had a crappy childhood. I bet she had
Mm-hmm.
domineering parents.
Mm-hmm.
I bet she never had a voice, so she feels like she has to overly express herself now. She had no control, or she felt helpless or no control in her childhood. So she
Yeah.
feels she has to control everything to the T.
Yeah.
Turns
Yeah.
people off instead of just being a servant and helping
Yeah.
people with an open heart, and then create what we're taught to do through our program is create that attractive character, and people will come to you.
Yeah. I've learned that people aren't that complicated to figure out. I mean, I might not know great detail about them, but in general, people just want to feel good about who they are and what they do. And um, you know, I'm really good at putting myself in other people's shoes. So much so that I did it with my dog. When I had my dog in well, he was 14 years old in 2015. And at some point before then, I was driving 18 wheelers and I was looking at putting him up for adoption because the one that's on my business card, because I was never home and I wanted to find, I thought, well, I'm not spending any time with him. I want him to have a better family. And what I did was I go, okay, so he's going to go to the shelter, live in a jail, in a whatever. Um, I can't think of the thing. So it's like jail. And he's not going to understand. He doesn't have the freedom to do what he does now. Then he may go to another family. I don't know how they're going to treat him. What if they leave him out all the time? He was an indoor outdoor dog with me. What if they leave him out all the time? And I'm like, you know what? No, no. I adopted him. I mean, I got him when he was a puppy, and he's staying with me till he dies because I did not want him to have to go through any of that, because I was able to look at it from his perspective, so to speak, and go, this is what he's dealing with. This is going to be terrifying to him. And I already made the commitment and he's my responsibility and I'm going to fulfill this, and kept him. He ended up being, I mean, he's always been a great dog to begin with. He ended up being my, not sponsor, but, I don't know what you call it on my business card, but,
Your logo?
yeah, yeah. And he would go to junk removal jobs with me in my old truck. A lot of customers loved him. I mean, he would ride around with me everywhere. I do have a picture. It was really funny. I picked up a couch and I had it in the bed of the truck, and I don't have the picture of him on the couch because by the time I thought of getting a picture, he had gotten off the couch, but he's sitting next to it in the bed of the truck. And I'm like, this is hilarious. We haul off furniture. So that's going to be one of my pictures on my website. But, I love that dog, and he was just the greatest dog ever. So I was really glad that I decided to stick with it. And, putting him down was the worst. It's still, I've had dogs all my life, and he's probably affected me more than any of them. I still struggle with that, but he was worth everything, because he was just a great dog. But I was able to put myself in that perspective, and I do that with people all the time, so I can always do that, and I can go, okay, this person's acting like an asshole because whatever happened to him, he did not know how to deal with it, and this is how he deals with his problems. He deals with it by being an asshole. That's what he knows, right? And that doesn't make him a bad person. That just, he doesn't know how to deal with it any other way. And so that's how I look at people. It's more general, not so specific like you do. You're very specific, and I think that's how you help your clients so well, is because you get down and gritty and go, okay, this is how, this is what's going on, and this is what we need to do to fix this.
100%. Heard this about 6-7 years ago in a training group I was in, but we like to say that we all have the same color shit. It's just our same shit. It's just different colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it all leads, like I said, it's very predictable, right? We all reach out in one of the same 5 or 6 ways. And it's never just one. It's alcohol, drugs, pornography, inappropriate sexual relationships, food, which all leads to procrastination, which leads to a circle of fear and shame. One chases the other, fear begets shame, shame begets more fear, and then it just goes around and around and around until you can figure out how to do a pattern interrupt to that circle. I haven't talked about those words in a while. I used to talk about those words all the time.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. And then, we freeze up, we lock up, we don't know what to do. Information overload is real. I didn't really start progressing and really going to where I wanted to go in my life until I just started getting rid of the BS. Like I would even, I'd listen to all the coaches, all of them, right? Like you name them, I was on there listening to their podcasts, right? Or they're watching their YouTube, like Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, and Tony Robbins, and Gary Vaynerchuk, and Dean Graziosi, and you name it. If I heard of them, I was listening to them. Of course, Ryan Stewman and Sean Whalen, right? And I'm listening to everybody, and then one day I just stop, because what you're doing is you're confusing yourself. So they all are kind of going to get you to where you want to go if you do what they tell you to do, but they all take a different expressway to get there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's when I'm just I stopped. I don't listen to any, I still love and admire Ed Milet so much. Can't tell you the last time I listened to anything he's put out, other than I am currently still reading his new book, The Power of One More. The advanced growth I've done now, it's a very popular book. It's still, a lot of it's very basic for me, for the stuff, because the work, it's not 'cause I'm better or smarter, but I've just done a lot of years of work on myself. But it's a good book, and people should definitely read it. But I stopped listening to them because, again, it was confusing me. And then when we get information overload, we stop, we procrastinate, and then we don't know what to do next. So now I primarily only listen to Ryan Stewman and follow his systems for building my business, because he's the person that I align with most.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool. And I mean, it does get overwhelming. And so I do listen to a lot of different podcasts, but what I have done differently is I take pieces here and pieces here and pieces here, because not all of it pertains to me, and not all of it am I interested in, but I just take what I learn. And sometimes I just put the podcast on just to have something on. I really don't listen to music much. I like to listen to people talk, and if nothing else, sometimes it's just somebody talking about themselves, and you learn more about that person and things like that. And you go, okay, well, they went through this tragedy and they overcame this, and that's really cool. And how can I take that and use it, and take this over here and use it? So that's what I'll do sometimes. I do listen to Ryan. I don't think I've listened to Sean yet, but I used to listen to Andy, not so much anymore. I don't know why. I think a lot of what he talks about sometimes is politics, and I have no interest in it. You know, that's just me. But I think that's really awesome. I think that's a good point, that too much information too can be overloaded, and it just you're right. You do stop and procrastinate and try and figure out what you want to do now. And now you're even more confused than you were to begin with. And, you know, it's difficult. It is difficult. I mean, I do that now with my own self. I'm like, I need to do this, and this. And yeah, how am I going to do all that? You know? So again, that's where time management comes in. Definitely need to improve on that one. That one's a tough one for me.
Yeah, I've made the transition from the podcast to audible books, actually.
Oh,
Because like
really?
I don't really listen. The only time I really listen to music is if I'm doing tedious data entry that I need to do sometimes.
Yeah.
I put music on kind of low, like familiar music I don't have to think about, like songs I've been here listening to for 40 years, you know,
Yeah.
playing in the background distracts my brain so my anxiety doesn't come up in that.
Yeah.
So that keeps my anxiety at bay, and then I can sit
Yeah.
here and do my data entry or whatever it is I have to do.
Yeah.
So I, every time I play music, I'll throw whatever I don't know what it's called, the one of the apps on, you know,
Yeah.
and just let music play in the background while I'm just doing tedious day-to-day stuff that we as business owners have to do. And then that's been real good for controlling my anxiety.
That's
Uh,
pretty cool. I
yeah,
like
because
that.
if I have to do something I don't want to do and I'm not necessarily good at, then my anxiety will tend to take over. But if I'm in my element, and this is something I learned from the book The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks,
Hmm.
I try to only focus on A, what I want to do, and B, what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I try to eliminate the rest of it. Whether I hire it out or I get somebody else to do it, or I try to keep to very low minimum stuff I don't like to do, combined with stuff I'm not good at. Because that's
Yeah.
just as a futility. I mean, if you're not good at it and you don't like to do it, it's not going to be right anyway. So you're better
Yeah.
off the investment to get somebody else to do it, or if you have a partner, get your partner to do it, or you know, whatever.
Yeah. And that's really a good point. I mean, I don't have that uh luxury yet, but most of what I do, I enjoy. There's a few things that's not my favorite. I don't think there's much I dislike. There may be a few jobs I dislike, but I do, still love doing the actual jobs and the junk removal. I enjoy talking with my customers. I call it messing with them, but it's not always messing with them. I mean, it's not always like that. Sometimes, somebody just passed away and I'm not going to come up there just jacking with them and trying to be funny, because that's not the time for that. But I don't know, so I still work in the business, but I really really enjoy it, except the rat infested houses. They're not my favorite, but other than that, I like it. So
Definitely
uh
have sharp wit to you. You're very quick.
oh my gosh, I it's just fun. What you see sometimes, you're just like, I don't know. But you just see a part of people's lives that they just don't show everybody. And so I tell my guys, you keep your mouth shut, be respectful. We went into one house one time, and it was a, I mean, I'm guessing it's about a $400,000 or $500,000 home. And I kid you not, I mean, I would die to have this home. And there was crayon all over the wall. I mean, upstairs, down to everywhere. There was everywhere. The house, it was just horrid. It was horrid. Stains all over the carpet. And it was so bad. I went out and I told my guys, this is what you're going to see. Do not say one word. Do not go, oh my God. Just don't say anything. Keep your mouth shut and go in there and get the stuff and let's go. and no talking about what you see laying around and the coloring on the wall and everything being trash. Because when you go into a house that nice, that's definitely not what you expect. You expect somebody who has that kind of money to have a lot nicer house. And so it threw me for a loop. I mean, nothing surprises me anymore. I've been doing this 8 years, but that one caught me off guard. I did not, that was my first house like that. And I was like, man, I'll take this house. Jeez. I'm not doing that to it, so but you never know what you're walking into emotionally with some people. Some things are very difficult, and other things are, hey, we just want you to get it out of here. We don't care anymore, and they're, funny and stuff like that. So it's always something different. Sorry, we got off on me instead of you. So
That's fine. Listen, mine is a crazy thing. I sold cars for a minute, as you may recall, and I remember this lady, she came in, she was a therapist or whatever. She was a mental health professional. And when we did her trade vehicle, it was probably like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old car. And I go to get in it to take it over to be evaluated by the used car buyer. And the car was like a hoarder car. I was like, oh my God,
wow.
this mental health professional. And like she lived in the car or something. And I knew she didn't because I had her address. Her husband was there with her, but she was dressed to the nines. Her nails were done. She was very professional. But her car was full of junk and wrappers and magazines. And it literally looked like she lived in her car, literally. And here she was trading it out in a brand new car. And I was just like, I don't understand. Like you come in all
Yeah.
professional and all made up, and your car is just, look, I'm not Mr. Uh, obsessive compulsive about keeping my cars clean either.
Yeah.
Take the trash up out of it. You
Yeah.
know, the vacuum gets run in it at least once every 2 months or so, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't get
And it's a shock to see that, especially when you find out what they do. We've done some nurses' houses, and you're like, yeah, okay. I'm not gonna say anything, but yeah, especially when they're in a certain field, like you said, that one was mental health. That would not be what I expected. I'm pretty sure she did not get a great deal on returning her car, because the work y'all had to probably do to get it back to selling
probably,
condition was unimaginable, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, it was a while ago, but yeah, that's interesting you bring that up. The whole mindset, let's say, like, my own mother has she has dementia. She's in a nursing home now, unfortunately, but her home was, it wasn't a hoarder house, but definitely has stacks. My mother probably hadn't thrown nothing out since she was 17 years old,
Wow.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
So, and she didn't grow up poor, starving. My grandfather was a farmer, and they always did okay. So it's becomes like, let me hold on to this because I might lose it. I might not never get it again mentality, but where it actually comes from, I don't really know. Right. Like I said, I didn't really consider my grandparents wealthy, but
Hmm.
he did well enough to live in Michigan in the summer and live in Florida every winter,
Yeah.
you with a travel trailer, because that's what farmers do. You can't farm in the winter, so they get
Yeah.
out of the go south, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting the different mindsets and learning about people's, like, even childhood. A year ago, July, I sat my dad down, or my dad and I sat down, and he's going to be 75 this year, and got to have a real good chat about his childhood, which explained a lot about things I didn't understand that went on in my childhood and why certain things were the way they were. Well, I didn't know these things about his childhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for instance, like, my parents were divorced. It wasn't a priority for my dad to come to my sports games, and that would hurt my feelings. Looking
Hmm.
up stands and all the other fathers are there, but at 55 years old, I finally got the explanation, and I knew this, that my grandfather was an orphan on the streets of Macon, Georgia. He went in the military literally because he was starving to death,
Wow.
and at 18 years old. So what priority do you think my grandfather put on playing sports?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you get your
Yeah.
ass out and go to work. So my dad was roofing barns at 16,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So sports were not really encouraged in his household, because you better get to work or you starve, because that was very easy to see where that mentality came from. My grandfather, because his mom died young, his dad died young, and he was an orphan.
Yeah.
And so now I understand. So all these years I might have harbored those hurts because my dad didn't come watch me play Little League. But
Hmm.
now I know where his mental game was. Like, it just
Yeah.
wasn't a priority to him because that's how he was raised, right? So it's
Yeah.
funny how things can, I call them generational sin. I'm not saying they're
Yeah.
literal sin, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think pass from father to child or mother to child. And then if you and I don't become aware and go back and correct it within ourselves, then
Yeah.
what's going to passed on our children. My son's 25, and I jokingly say, I owe you therapy whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Well,
up till he was 18, 19.
yeah.
Right.
Well, it's funny you say that. My family was extremely, extremely dysfunctional, and I refused to continue that dysfunction. And yeah, I mean, I have my issues, and yeah, I'm still dysfunctional, but I broke the chain. I was such a bad kid, bad. And I had my reasons for being bad. My parents did not even know into my 20s the trauma that had happened to me, because I didn't never tell them. And
Right.
so, uh, you know, I refused to be the same way that they were. And I broke that chain. But I was so bad, I was put in girls' homes, rehabs from 12 to 18, all in the effort to try and get me off drugs. And I appreciate that. I didn't obviously at the time. And some of the bad things happened in some of those places, but you know, with my son, I was completely different. And I was a bit strict. And my first husband died when my son was 8. And so I had an estranged relationship with my mom. She stepped in to help me out because my in-laws from my first marriage were kicking us out of the house that we had lived in for 10 years, and they were the only family we knew other than mine, right? So anyway, I forgot my point, but when my husband died, I had my mom be the good parent, and I wanted to be the bad parent. So I did the grounding, I did the discipline, I did this. And when I overdid it, like there was one time I got mad at my son and I said, "Man, you're grounded for 2 months." And I realized, okay, I grounded him out of anger. I went back in and said, "Okay, look, I'm sorry. You're still grounded, but you're not grounded for 2 months. You're grounded for 2 weeks or whatever, right?" But my mom was used in this, so he had somewhere to talk, right? Because I wanted to be, and I don't think this is normal in a normal household. I don't know what's normal. I didn't grow up with normal, but this was how I raised my son. Is she was the good parent, I was the bad parent. And to me, I mean, it still works to this day. He's 30. He still likes to go talk to her first. Doesn't really hurt my feelings. Because I like that he has that with her. He still goes to her and talks to her. He talks to me, and he'll still tell me, but he does tell her first. And obviously there's no more good parent, bad parent. He's grown. But you know what? He never did drugs. He never went to jail. He never got in trouble. He graduated high school. Uh he's a great kid. A little sarcastic, but hey, he's pretty funny, super funny. I have no regrets. I mean, mistakes I've made, but are not, who doesn't? And that's what worked for us. But the biggest thing was I broke those chains that were traveling with my family. So that's where I was proud of that, you know.
Yeah, and I have no clue where he got his sarcasm from at all.
Yeah, I know, me neither. I posted one time on Facebook. I said, "My son's a survivalist. He survived me." And I thought that was funny.
Right? Yeah, that's cool that though, even though rather, people would question right or wrong, who cares, right? You did
Yeah,
it your way, but you did it with the mindset to, I'm going to turn this around and make this as best I can. I've told my son one of the cool things about being a kid is that you get to take from how we raised you,
Hmm.
and you get to keep whatever parts you liked and apply it to
Yep.
your children. And you get to discard the stuff you didn't like and try a little bit better, try to improve upon it. That's one of the coolest part about transitioning from kid to growing to having your
Yep.
own.
And that's exactly it. And that's exactly how I look at it. You know, you can learn stuff from bad people. You can learn stuff from good people. It doesn't matter who they are. You can take what they were and learn from that and go, okay, this is what I don't like about this. This is what I do like, and this is how I'm going to try this and see what happens. And let's, you know, do something better, you know?
Yep, that awareness. I like to say use the term thinking about what you think about. A
Yeah.
thought in, and then you just pause momentarily before you react. And you go, okay, I just had this thought. Where did it come from? Why did I
Mhm.
have this thought? And what am I going to do with it? What's the best use of it? And when you can do that, that's when you're getting closer to true self mastery.
Yeah. I
Instead of
like
just
that.
do it, just stop for a moment. And then a lot of times you could say, well, this relates to when I was 7 and I went through this, which by the way, I was 7, so it was not my fault.
Yeah.
But us humans, us adults, we have a way of blaming ourselves for stuff that happened to us, even though we had absolutely no control. You've shared your story, I've read it.
Yeah.
Um, there's no question. And all my clients have had some childhood issues to some whatever extent.
Yeah.
You're right up in there, top of some of the most traumatic childhoods that I've ever read about, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
Fact,
was,
raising your son into being a fine, upstanding young man and making his way in the world is really a testament to you being determined, because you have shared your story a little bit within our
yeah.
group. And I was reading it with my mouth open, going, "Holy man, Michelle's
Yeah.
been through stuff." And
Yeah. Yeah.
I even told my wife a little bit about your story this morning before I came on. I'm like, Michelle's been through a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
I really respect her so much that she's dealing with it. I don't know any of us are okay, but we're all doing the best we can.
Well, I look at things like this, even getting locked up in girls' homes and rehabs, and I had a lot of bad things happen in those places that my parents did not know about at the time.
Right.
But to them at that time, they were making the best decision that they knew of at that time. And to judge them on that now is not fair, because you don't know the circumstances that they were dealing with. The, you know, the time, is what, 80s probably. So just the time frame, the mentality, and all they're looking for is a solution at this point. So, you know, the frantic of, if we don't do something, our daughter's going to die kind of attitude is probably what I would imagine that they had. It had to be terrifying for them as well. And so I am not mad for anything that they've ever done. They didn't hurt me in these places. They just put me in the places, and those places hurt me. That's not their fault either. Had I been didn't have this other stuff going on, then, that probably wouldn't have happened. But I'll tell you what, I probably would have been an asshole anyway, because my parents were, what's the word? I don't know if influential. They had money at the time. And I was not a nice person. So it took everything that I went through, being on welfare, things like that, to really change who I am. And I look back at my life, and yeah, there's some bad shit in there, and okay, stuff happens. But in the big picture, look at what I came out of. Look at the cesspool that I crawled out of with help from people. And look at me. Look how far I've come. And that's what I look at. And, I want to help people with that, because, some people just can't let go of problems, or the trauma that's happened to them. And I understand that to a point, because I do let go of it. and I'm very forgiving and I'm very tolerant, maybe a little more tolerant than I wish I was, but I just believe in forgiveness, and that is what saved my life, actually. So,
That's
you know,
awesome.
yeah. It to me, there's nothing you can't do. We're so capable of so much, you know. So I have one, we're gonna have to wrap it up. I have one question for you. Are you ready?
I am.
All right. How do you get rid of the trash, the mental, emotional, and physical trash that gets piled up in your life? How do you get rid of that?
Wow. That's a big, that's my whole 12-week program. And that's
Well,
why
you
people have, that's why some people re-up for a whole year after, right? After 12 weeks done.
don't give all your secrets away because we want
Okay, so
people to subscribe.
I'll tell you what helped me.
Okay.
All right. Some people may not want to hear it, but it's the truth. And I don't really care if they're offended by it because it's my story.
Right.
Okay. So here's my story. Had my own childhood issues that I dealt with. My wife, I was raised Christian, but we weren't really taken to church. Good intent, well-intended neighbors took us. And then my mother, my stepfather was Catholic, so we attended Catholic church off and on, even though we weren't Catholic ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it was on and off, right? So when my wife and I got married, we found a local church. We bought our first house, and we started to go into church a little bit. And then our son had real bad separation anxiety when he was young. So my wife started volunteering in children, so he would go. We couldn't just drop him off.
Right.
So probably just us being weak parents looking back on it, but whatever. But everything happens for a reason, so there's a cause. So then we became CEOs, right? Church and Easter only. We go to church on Easter, Christmas. I mean, Christmas and Easter only, right? Became CEOs. So we go to church on Christmas and Easter only, and then we'd attend once in a while. And then about 3 years prior, somewhere in 2012, an incident happened to my wife's family. We ended up taking custody of a couple of our great nephews, our niece's children, for a while. And my wife decided to start taking them to church so they'd have some good message in their life. But through that, she kind of became saved, as we would say, or born again, or whatever you want to say. We had experienced some trauma with my son, and I had, quote, air quotes for anybody that's listening that's not watching it, got mad at God,
Mm-hmm.
blamed God, which is very typical, and walked away from God. So I went down that road of being agnostic, very borderline atheist. All right, ever. So my wife returned to church in 2015. And of course, as she's getting healed, she starts asking me to come back. And I'm refusing, and it's a very embarrassing to me part of it, but I'm making fun of her for going to church and just generally being a horrific husband in that respect. But I hired a business coach, and I went to, he had like 2 and 3 day events. So we're out to dinner after this event. My wife didn't go to the event, but she joins us for dinner. And it's like a long buffet table kind of thing we're sitting at, and that coach is sitting across from me and to the right, and my wife is sitting to my left. So there's a diagonal conversation going on.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks, it's Saturday night, and he says, what are you guys doing tomorrow? Or what are you doing tomorrow? And I don't say nothing. And my wife picks up the conversation. She says, well, I serve in the children's area. This was June 2015. I serve in the children's area of church, first service. I sit second service, and I spend the afternoon with my mom, who was still alive at the time in a nursing home. And Jamie, he's kind of on his own. So he looks at me, and he says, what about you? You going to go to church tomorrow? And I don't respond because I'm mad at God. There's no, I'm agnostic. I'm maybe atheist. Yeah. I don't know, whatever. And then he goes, let me ask you a question. He said, do you want God to show up for you in your life and in your business that I was building at the time? So what are you going to say? Say yes.
Yeah.
So he says, well, then you need to start showing up for God. Take your wife to church, would you? And wow. I'm just like, what am I going to say? Yeah. So I said, yes, I'll go. So we get up, we're walking out of the audience, out of the restaurant. And my wife takes me by the hand, and she looks up. She says, are you really going to go to church with me tomorrow? And I go, yeah. And she goes, oh, wait a minute. I've been asking you for 3 years to go to church with me. We go to business with this coach, or dinner with this business coach one time, and he tells you to go to church, and now you're going. What's up with that? she felt highly disrespected. She had the right to. And I said, well, I paid him $2,500 to tell me to go to church. At which point she called me a couple of not nice Christian names that start with F and an A. And, and I said, we know this. And I went back to church, and it wasn't one of those I walked through the doors and I was saved. It was, I hated being there, sat with my arms crossed, didn't want to be there, didn't want to hear it. But after going for a couple weekends, I'm walking out of church and the pastor stops me, puts his hand on my shoulders. Now, this was the guy we'd started attending this church 20 some odd years prior, but I'd never had two conversations with this guy. Puts his hand on my shoulder and says, you need to stop living your past, start living your future. And a flood of tears hit my eyes. Wow. And then from there, God started healing me, sitting in church. I'm crying, I'm cleansing, I'm crying during the week. I don't know why. I'm cleansing, I'm healing. 3 years later, I got baptized that following Easter. 2 years later, I had some confessions to make. I wasn't living my life the way I should be living it. My wife ended up in therapy. And so when I left that coach, I went with another coach and a mentor similar to what we're in. And then I found Apex with Ryan Stewman and all that, right? Which is how you and I become friends.
Yeah.
And so it's a combination of my wife's leadership in that area, her support behind me, the 3 different organizations, mentorship coaches, the private coaches I've hired, and church, and 4.5 years now of visiting a psychotherapist, which is my next meeting in an hour. Oh, 4.5 years later, we still go every other week now. And we were joking around 3 or 4 meetings ago. I said, are we your longest running clients? And he said, oh no, you're my second longest running clients. Yeah. And that's okay, right? Mental health is such a taboo subject. And not every week is a boohoo crying session. A lot of weeks it's just, we're just visiting, solving little problems, and we pay them for that. But then we get those weeks where like, I'm really struggling here, or I'm really hurting here. And then he says, well, have you thought about this way? Have you tried this way? And he helps open up our eyes. So I pay the therapist, I pay private coaches, I'm in the big groups, I'm in church. And so I know that's a long-winded answer to your short question, but that's what's going to be on a better track to getting more healed, because I'll never claim I'll ever be healed, because I'm constantly a work in progress. So that was very long-winded, but I hope it helps somebody.
I think it was awesome, and I appreciate you, Jamie, coming on here. And it's been a lot of fun learning more about you. Are you going to Apex? What is it, August 11th?
No, I am not actually.
Okay.
I did Dallas 7 times in 11 months, the end of 2020 through 2021. So I'm kind of sitting back this year and not making any trips. He'll probably do another one in November. He usually does for an end of the year. I may make that one, but
cool.
Yeah, we thought about it, but who wants to be in Dallas in August? Your weather's kind of hot and sticky.
Yeah, it's hot.
Weather here in Florida, but at least I have an ocean to go dip in.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, we don't have that. We don't even have like kiddie pools like parked on the side of the highway that we can jump in. Just nothing. So it's dry.
The number one reason why, as much as I love Dallas, I'll never move there.
You know what? I love this area. I mean, I've been here 42 something years. I wasn't born here, but I've been here so long. I just love it. But I'm not good with change. My husband hates it here, so that makes it entertaining all the better. But anyhow, well, thank you so much. I appreciate coming on, and I hope you have an awesome day, and we'll have to have you on again. This is awesome.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. A good time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.